Okay. I want to give you an example of permutation type thinking. Okay, and this is motivated by a very important question and a wiki hole that I fell down earlier today. So, why area codes? Like, area codes are really weird. I don't really understand how they work, so I went and fell down this Wikipedia hole today. So, the first question maybe is, how many phone numbers are there in an area code?
Is this theoretically possible or using the North American numbering plan?
Okay,
Because
so
there's some very specific
I
information.
know. So let's develop that theory. Okay, so first things first, what does a phone number look like? I don't mean that it looks like the picture of your friend that you push on your phone, right? There's some numbers behind that. So remember back to when you used to not be able to like bash your phones together and get them to share contacts? But remember back in the day, you used to have to actually know those numbers.
It's a three-digit phone number multiplied. It's a three-digit number multiplied by another three-digit number minus a four-digit number.
How many numbers like make up an area code?
Okay,
How many numbers
very
make
cute.
up an area code?
So,
Can there be?
hey,
This is like a legitimate question.
I know. We're going to answer it.
Okay.
So there's an area code, right? That's 3 digits. Forgetting that how those are made, right? Because I'm just asking in a specific area code what's going on. There's 3 slots here, right?
The exchange.
Yeah, that's your exchange code. And then there's
Subscriber number.
You mean there's actually like reasons why for those
Yep.
numbers, why it's
Yes.
3 and
yeah, because
4?
people used to sit there and do this. So you would, the way phones used to work, watch The Crown on Netflix. So the way phone numbers used to work was you would, this 3-digit number, sorry, go back. This 3-digit number would get you to an area exchange. Then you would tell them this 3-digit number, and they would physically plug your call into a box that was connected by a wire to a spot with more operators. So like this was, at the beginning, this was maybe statewide. So you'd call the state office, and then they physically connected you to like the city office. And then you would read the 4 digits that you want to get to, right? The person you want to talk to. And they would connect your call physically with a jack from their board onto the box that goes to this person's phone in their house. You guys see this? This is like super bizarre. It was a series of physical connections and everybody could listen to all of your call all of the time. And they often did. Because sometimes you need assistance or you want to get another person on the call. So you would just ask, the operator would connect that other person.
Just in their like car conversation, and he's like, "Hey, you gotta say something."
So super weird, right? Now it's just the NSA's computers just listen instead of the operator. So if you want to be connected to somebody, you say something bad about the federal government, and then you say, yeah, and also I'd like to leave a message for so-and-so who works at the NSA, and it'll get to them. Okay? So how many ways are there to do this thing just as it stands before I tell you that there are any restrictions?
We can start with all zeros.
Just how high can you count?
Okay, so how many numbers are there available to put in this slot? 10, right? How many numbers are there available to put in this slot?
10.
Also 10. How many in this slot? 10 and 10 and 10 and 10 and 10, right? So kind of first blow, raw idea is what? Yeah, There are probably around 10 million phone numbers in an area code.
Perfect distribution utilization.
Yeah, of course, the phone company has to keep track, right, of who they assign to what. They can't double assign numbers. You have to make sure that the numbers are being used still, right? But whatever. So, are there more or less than 10 million people in the United States?
More, a lot more.
More, substantially more. So you need at least a few area codes, right? Because each area code will only cover at most 10 million people. Okay, now it's a bit worse than that. So, Christian, you seem to know some of the rules. So this was raw, right? What are the other rules that go with this?
An exchange in an area code may not have an N11, so it cannot have two ones at the end of either the area code or the exchange code. So you cannot have.
So this thing can't begin,
Cannot also begin with a 1.
it can't begin with a 0 or a 1. Because.
Because why?
Because.
Because 1's used for inter-area code dialing, and it signals to the phone system that you are dialing out of your area code.
Yeah, so remember, when you're within an area code, if you want to place a call, you can just start here. That probably doesn't matter nowadays with cell phones. But if you pick up a landline and you just start dialing, right, it's assuming that you're within the exchange, not trying to call out. So the 0 will get you out, and so will the 1. 0 will get you to the general operator. The 1 will get you to, hey, I'm starting with an area code now.
Yeah.
And then your number scheme won't be long enough, so you won't get anywhere.
The 1 jumps you out basically to the US.
Yeah.
That's good.
Does that kind of make sense? So, yeah, then,
Then those two cannot also be 1s.
yeah, it's actually those two at the end. Yeah, you're right, that seems a little bizarre, and I don't know why, but Wikipedia says it's these two. They can't be, I know, it's a good source for information. These can't both be 1.
But
So
only
one
one
could
of
be
them
one.
could be.
One of them can be 1.
Yeah, one of them can be 1, but they can't both be. Now, Christian also points out that I really shouldn't be able to dial 911 dash stuff.
Yeah, because most
Right.
phone systems will actually
Yeah.
just say
They cut you
911.
off.
Yeah. So let's work with just these pair of restrictions. So not 0 or 1 here, and can't both be 1 there. You guys cool with that? Yes? So how many of these are there? Okay.
For the win.
Let me suppress this one for a second and just talk about not starting with 0, 1.
Okay, that
8
just,
possibilities.
that changes the possibilities.
Okay? So I get 8 times
10.
10 to the 6th.
Yeah.
Okay?
That's the easiest to accommodate.
Yeah, that one's super easy. All right, now how about the other one?
Can't both be.
Yeah, this one gets confusing, right? Because they can't both be 1s, but one of them is allowed to be. So maybe instead of figuring out how many things are allowed,
Yeah, just minus.
so we'll do not 0, 1 and not ending with 1, 1. We'll do that as 8 times 10 to the 6th, right? That's our not 0, 1. And then we should subtract off,
A tenth of those. No.
how many of them are there that end with 1, 1? How many choices do you get for here and here if they have to end in 1, 1?
100.
There's only one way for it to end in 1, 1, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so that would be, let's see, this is an 8 in my thought, right? To get that to not 0, 1.
Wouldn't there be more than a possibility of 1-1?
Like, it could be like 9611, and then 9511.
That's what he's doing.
But all of those end with 1-1.
Right.
See that? So these right now are the only ones that end with 1-1. How many of them are there?
8 times.
Quite a few.
Yeah, it's a 100th of the total.
Yeah, so there's 80,000 of these things, right? So I'm going to take the total number allowed, right? Where they end in whatever, and then I'm going to take off the 80,000 of them that end with 1-1. You guys see that? So I took the total that ended with, or that didn't start with 0 or 1, and then I subtracted off the ones that ended with 1-1 to get those out of the system. You guys cool with that? So this is how many?
What's your question?
How many is that?
It is 792. Oh god, 7,908,000.
Exactly. 702.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, that number.
This number.
That's how you
Okay, so this is the total number in an area code, right?
Are there more restrictions?
There's, yeah, so there's this restriction that Christian reasonably pointed out, which I've for some reason totally ignored because it wasn't on Wikipedia. And then, what else? So what's the other restriction?
555.
The other one I found is even dumber.
There's no 5-5 there.
So, the exchange 555, the entire exchange 555
From movie universe.
used to be reserved for fictional phone numbers. They have since relaxed that.
Wait, really?
Yeah, I just read this morning. And it's really just those ones to these ones that are now restricted.
Why are they running out?
Wait, you can't put 5555555. But that's okay.
Yeah, apparently the one with all fives is no longer a restricted number.
That sucks.
These-
For someone
These-
to call it.
Hey, what's your number 75?
Are fictional.
What does that even mean?
It means so when people use
That means they're
they don't
only
call it.
fictional. They'll never get assigned a real phone number because they're used in movies and stuff, and people occasionally try to call.
Now, granted, there's a couple big blockbuster movies that have had phone numbers. You can call them and you get something connected
But
to the
they
movie or
set up a
whatever.
number outside of that range.
Yeah.
That's
That's
true.
555.
What does it do?
Not very good.
Never mind. Why are we calling random people?
I'm Canadian, that's why.
That's ET.
Okay, so you have reached static at an exchange. Excellent work. How many of these are there?
A lot.
Of these?
There's like
99 of them.
100.
Yeah, there's 100 of them.
100.
Oh, wait.
Start counting at 0. Right?
Oh.
So there's 100 reserved fictional numbers that are not allowed. So you'd subtract that off of this and get a grand total of something like 7-8 million phone numbers, right? So how many area codes do we need then?
A lot.
Did
A
you
lot.
just say you can't dial 911 though as part of your?
Yeah, so there's some other reasonable restrictions, which is that this
Alright.
this item shouldn't be allowed to be 911 or 811 or
So that
4.
cuts off another
So that cuts off another how many?
10,000.
Yeah. Something like that. So how many are there that
We're gonna disregard.
He was hoping to give more explanation, but you're right. Yeah, you're right.
Well, I mean, within 911, this tail end is only 10 times 10 times 10
Right.
times 10. That's eliminated with zeros. So.
Well, I got you.
Oops. So I want to know how many have this 1-1 position that I'm worried about, right? And really, I already said there's only 8 options for this thing, right? And then,
Yeah, because you got like 4 1-1s or 9
yeah, 2-1-1 still wasn't allowed, but it wasn't allowed earlier anyway. So subtracting it off would be a little weird. You guys see that? So I should really end up subtracting off, what, another 80,000 to keep the exchange codes from reading whatever 1-1. So
So that includes 911.
Yeah, so subtract off another 80,000 and whatever you get there is your total numbers in an area code. Am I likely to run out of area codes anytime soon?
Oh, God, only have 1,000.
Yeah, so we only have 1,000 of them, right? And presumably those also will suffer from the, you're not allowed to put 911 as your area code either.
Yeah,
Right.
it's all the same restrictions.
So really there's not 1,000 of them, there's only 990. Right?
It's still a lot.
Yeah, so
We can
how many do we need right now as a country? Call it 8 million, just to be generous to the phone company. How many people are there in the United States?
300 million. So 320 million, almost 320 million.
Yeah, okay, so there's 320 million people, right?
Yeah.
so
Obviously, that's including people that don't have phone numbers.
Yeah, but it's also only counting me as one phone number, and I have a cell phone and an office phone.
Yeah. So it's
Right.
not even.
I've got more phone numbers.
And then this, like,
Yeah,
this is a
each
phone number.
on this campus has a different phone number.
Yeah.
But they all start with.
Oh, and actually, I shouldn't lie. I have 2 phone numbers because I have a Google Voice number that forwards to my cell phone. So I personally account for 3 phone numbers. You guys? 1 or 2? Just
I've
one?
got one
Landline?
on my phone.
Let's see, I've got cell phone, I've got backup cell phone number for when I'm working out of cell range. I've got Google Voice, home phone, other Google Voice.
Yeah. So the average person, I think, accounts for something like 1.8 phone numbers. So this split 8 ways is how much? How many?
You spelled 1.8 way?
Wait.
So I think we need at least 40 area codes.
So we're safe for now.
Yeah, and we have something like 990, right? So
Yeah.
we're probably okay for the moment,
That would cover
even if
7.1.
you doubled this.
Yeah, even if we went to 3.2 billion.
That would
And then
go
if you
to
really needed to,
7.8.
they could just
8.
add another digit into the area code.
Well, and all those people are gonna die and their numbers aren't gonna be used anymore and they can recycle.
But
Yeah, there's some recycling of numbers, right?
you
But
you still got to think of current population.
yeah, it's still current population, right? Because when somebody dies,
What's-
usually they're replaced.
What's interesting.
Think about it that way. I encourage that thought,
Then they
actually.
get their phone.
What's interesting is that there's actually a smarter way of making more permutations with numbers. Is that you can use a bigger base.
Yeah, that's actually a valid point. So instead of assigning numbers to everyone, right, we could assign letters, which would be a lot actually like how we assign people names, except we could do it even more random and just make random strings.
Something interesting, that's actually what's happening.
Yeah.
Because there's this, it's not really new, it's 20 years old now, but there's this thing called the Session Initiation Protocol, which uses phone numbers that look like email addresses
Yeah.
and act like email addresses.
Yeah, and of course, I actually get pages from Search and Rescue through one of those. Yeah. So there's some pushes away from this thing because our modern communication medium does kind of other things better. Did this help at all, the idea of permutations? So think about the slots, and then think about how many things are there available to each slot. And then notice that sometimes it's nicer to just talk about how many things don't meet the restriction and just subtract those off. You guys cool with us?